And I think it's important to say that while you may be seen today as a Modi critic, you're actually saying historically, when we look at the politics of India, even when there has been a super powerful Congress prime minister, chief ministers have not liked it, state colleagues, state leaders have not liked it. You're not just making a point about the BJP, you're making a point about both the BJP and the Congress. You're making a point about India. You're making a point about checks and balances.
I'm making a point actually about the psyche of a person in public life. Why do you become a politician? Why do you become the defense minister of India? You've been the president of the party, and you have to stand like a shadow now next to the prime minister. We've seen all those videos. Somebody comes with a garland, and Mr. Rajnath Singh has to step aside so that the garland by accident doesn't fall on his head. You know, what does it tell you? Now, these are, you are in politics because you're seeking power. Let's face it, politics is essentially about power. And then there is the use of power and the misuse of power. But politics is about power. From a sarpanch in a village who contests to become a sarpanch, a Zilla Parishad chairman, an MLA, an MP, they are all in the business of securing power. And some would say to do good to the people. Some may think that it's in order to make money or float a business, whatever. But at the end of the day, you're seeking power. But if all of that power gets concentrated in one person or in two persons, then everybody else has to be a supplicant. So my argument is not just based on hearsay and data, etc. It's also based on the psyche of a politician. I've been in this business as you have been for a long time. We've met all kinds of politicians at all levels. From the district level, I've seen politicians from my student days. And then you know why a person gets into public life, why they spend time, effort, energy. You're traveling all around India, Barkha. Why do you do that? You do that because you're a media person. This is your job. This is what gives you the high, right? Now, why does somebody sweat it out in this May, June sun to contest an election? Yeah, because he wants power. At the end of the day, he wants to use that power. And if you create a system in which the chief minister of Rajasthan is just some kaun kiska, or of Gujarat is a kaun kiska, and we've had this kaun kiska chief ministers in the past also. What do all those people who are really, people with a base do? They say, boss, is enough. Both ho gaya. Now time for us also to regain our self-respect.
Let me ask you this. If you were to look back at the Indira years, arguably the only other phase where we've seen this kind of sort of power concentrate in, this kind of powerful prime minister, what do you think are the lessons of history? And I'm not talking of the obvious one of the emergency. I'm saying more in terms of the marginalization of state Congress leaders, the high command culture that the Congress is even today plagued by. It actually changes the structure of a party, and the consequences of that are felt in the long term. The BJP may not feel the consequences of it today, but like the Congress is today feeling the consequences of something that started long ago. So, talk a little bit about the historical perspective.
Absolutely. This is extremely important to understand because, senior leaders, again, I keep mentioning the same names, whether it's Rajnath Singh or a Gadkari or Amit Shah, they're all more or less the same age as the Prime Minister. They'll all be around for 5 years, maybe 10 years. What of a 25-year-old, BJP leader who wants to get into politics, who becomes an MP today? He's looking at a career in politics of 30, 40 years in front of him. And then he goes back to the 1980s when you had, Indira Gandhi with 300 plus, Rajiv Gandhi 400 plus. And they got demonetized, politically demonetized. You could no longer win elections in the name of Indira Gandhi and Rajiv Gandhi, right? So the Congress had to reinvent itself, go into coalitions, etc. And a whole generation of people lost their chance to be in power because they came into the Congress at the wrong time. If you were in the Congress in the 50s, 60s, 70s, you were very powerful. Just as if you're in the BJP in the last 10, 15 years, you have had a chance at power. But if you're entering politics today, your single biggest fear, if you're a member of the BJP, is what 10 years from now? Who will lead this party 10 years from now? Will Modi be able to fetch me even one vote? in the next general election or the one after that. So I think that is the what results in a decline of the organization. And the Congress party suffered the consequences of centralization of power because the organization became weaker at the state level. And I think that is something which is already happening in the BJP. Of course, they have the protection of the RSS, which is a very disciplined force, and the RSS cadre go out and secure support for the BJP. But within the BJP itself, I mean, within it as a political party where people come into politics, and they don't come in through the RSS route, but come through student bodies, they come through other political organizations, and then join the party and become leaders. And they find suddenly that there's no organization left. This organization is no longer able to deliver. What happens? So I think there's a lesson for political parties that if you have a third term of a Modi with 370, 380, 400, whatever, the organization will continue to dwindle as it has. In my judgment, already there's a dwindling, and without the support of the RSS, the Hindu Mahasabha, etc., all these Hindu organizations, the party as a party would not be able to deliver votes. And one
But
must make this distinction.
But Sanjay, as they say, Jo Jeeta Wahi Sikandar. Now, the fact is that the way the last decade has been, the Modi factor has been the overriding factor. Ideology comes second. It is the prime minister all the way. He sometimes even managed to swing state elections. The only other electoral magnet for the BJP has been Yogi Adityanath, the UP chief minister. Literally nobody else. I think, in fact, if most people had to name today the chief ministers, and no disrespect to them, but if they had to name the chief ministers of Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh, a lot of people wouldn't know. But Modi's fans would argue, as some of them are arguing in the audience stream, that voters don't care about what you care about. For example, we have Saurabh Vashisht saying voters don't care about the centralization of power, they simply care about deliverables. And it was UPA's policy paralysis that led to the surge in the vote percentage for the BJP. The argument being that somehow the argument around democracy, centralization, and individual being too powerful remains esoteric, remains a subject for academia. How do you make voters care about it?
No, it's not the voters that is relevant to my argument. It's the organization, right? So if the organization is able to deliver the voters to the polling booth on the voting day, the party has, that is how political parties have won elections in all political parties. But I think the point I'm trying to make is when the organization becomes dispirited, when local leaders become dispirited, when they sit at home. I mean, I give the example often to people of 2015 when Kejriwal won the assembly elections in Delhi. It was a classic example where the BJP in Delhi sat at home because they were unhappy with the way in which the first Modi government was constituted, and therefore there was an unhappiness organizationally in the BJP. I know this. I live in Delhi. I know a lot of them told this to me. That at that time there was a feeling that look, we haven't got what we deserve for whatever we were able to do, and the fact is that Kejriwal took advantage of that. So what I'm saying is that the organization gets weakened even if the Prime Minister is able to reach out to the voter directly. On voting day, it's the organization that delivers the vote. And I think that is where a dispirited cadre will not deliver that vote. And I think partly the decline in voting percentages, which you have seen in the first and second phase, and many of you have commented on this, I'm not the only one saying it, was because of this factor. So you do see a 5% drop in voting because people are staying at home.